Organisational culture seems to be one of those issues that causes more frustration than just about any other issue. Over more than 20 years of working with organisations around the world, we've been asked the question literally hundreds of times: how as a leader can I positively influence and change the culture in my organisation? In our experience, leaders actually have more influence than they realise. They're often just coming at it from the wrong direction. My name is Simon Tyson. I'm the CEO of the Real Learning Experience, and in this short video, I plan to share with you a simple model that leaders can use to have a positive influence on their organisation's culture. So just to make sure that we're both talking about the same thing, let's be clear on what we mean by corporate culture. The old cliche is still a good one. Organisational culture is really about the way we do things around here. Now, we need to go beyond that cliche to give you any real value. So what we're going to talk about today is the point at which that culture is decided. Critically, within an organisation, sub-teams often have their own culture. Now, if you work in an organisation with different divisions, different departments, even different geographical locations, you'll find as you move between them that often it is like visiting a different organisation. Today I'm going to be using the example, we've removed the names to protect the guilty, of an organisation we worked with Australia-wide that had incredibly different cultures between the states. As I go through that example, I have two objectives. One is to show you how different cultures can be within one organisation, but secondly, and more importantly, how the leader influenced that culture and where they could work if they wanted to have a more positive influence on their corporate culture. First, let me tell you about one state that was managed by a state manager with quite a bit of experience. This lady was very in tune with her people. She believed in positive reinforcement. She believed in giving them strong and clear feedback. She was tough. She wouldn't accept low standards. She wouldn't accept people not being accountable and responsible for their own actions. But when they did do the right thing, which was most of the time, she made sure they got lots of positive feedback. When someone had done the wrong thing, she gave them clear feedback, but she did it in a respectful way that left them intact as a person. Now, her managers learnt that's the way we do things around here. And as a result, with their own people, they used similar strategies. They gave feedback regularly, they made a lot of the feedback positive, and when it needed to deal with an issue of non-performance or low performance, they gave it respectfully and with a forward focus. That became the culture, that became the way we do things around here in that particular state. Now let's move to a different state. Same organisation, different planet. This state manager was also fairly experienced, but he believed in what he called tough love. Now in his world, tough love meant saying what was ever in your mind, regardless of the consequences. So if he was in a poor frame of mind, his people knew about it. If he was in a good frame of mind, his people knew about it. As a result, no one quite knew what to expect when they were dealing with this guy. Now this approach had a dramatic impact on the culture in his organisation. Instead of being open and honest about performance, people tended to keep things to themselves. They were never quite sure what the reaction would be, so they kept their head down. This became the way things were done around here in his state. And as a result, his managers treated their teams in the same way. I don't need to tell you which of those two states had the better result. One state had higher performance, higher profitability, better year-on-year sales, higher staff retention, higher staff satisfaction, and outperformed the other state on a whole range of other metrics. Critically for the organisation, the flow-through was all the way through to the bottom line. So in terms of impacting culture in a positive way, the first manager didn't just do it because it was nice. They did it because it worked, because it created a culture in which high performance was much more possible and much more likely. What each of these managers was doing was impacting culture. One was creating a culture that was vibrant, and one was creating a culture that was frankly toxic. Both of them were influencing what we call the point of choice. And by understanding the point of choice, any leader can have a positive impact on corporate culture. Imagine a new team member joining your team. They spend those early days, those early weeks, even the early months, figuring out, the old cliche again, how things are done around here. What we really mean by that is, what are the standards around here? How should they dress? How should they talk to each other? What are the acceptable response times in getting back to a customer? How hard should people work? As the new person makes each of these decisions, they're obviously influenced by a number of factors. In part, they bring stuff from their previous organisation with them, their past experience. In part, they have their own values. But the major factor is what they observe, the way things are done around here. Because people, especially new people, want to fit in, want to be accepted, the way things are done around here is highly influential. It's hard for someone to swim against the current, especially when they're working to fit in, which is why culture change can be so difficult. Now that's great news if you've got a really high standard already. It's hard for a new person coming in to fall below that standard. The people around them will hold them accountable to the high standard that already exists. However, if your team doesn't have the standard you want, what will tend to happen, instead of a new person bringing them up to a new level, the existing people will tend to bring the new person down to their existing level. Of course, when that new person makes their choice or makes their decision about the way they should act, that results in a consequence. It results in an action and a behaviour, and that then goes into the great big pool of things known as the way we do things around here. So the challenge is, this is self-perpetuating. People make decisions about the way they should act based on the way things are done around here, and when they make that decision, they act in a certain way that actually reinforces the way things are done around here. So, how do you change corporate culture? We'll go back to the point of choice model. You don't change culture by sitting around in the executive boardroom and making a decision about what the culture will be. You don't make cultural change by sending memos or even setting rules and standards. You make cultural change by influencing the point of choice. Now, there are two specific actions a leader can take, and if they repeat them consistently, they'll have a positive influence on the decisions people make at the point of choice. The first of those actions is modelling. Now, we don't mean the catwalk kind, we mean the example you set as a leader by your everyday choices and actions. It's almost impossible for people to work to a higher standard than the one they see set by the person who's leading them. The way we like to describe it is a leader can set the floor, the baseline, with rules and memos, but they set the ceiling, the maximum people will achieve, through the example they set through their own actions, choices and decisions. Now, the second thing you can do is coaching. Once you've established that high benchmark through your own example, you need to coach people. When they hit that point of choice and they're making that decision, that's the time to stop and talk to them. That's the time to either observe them making a choice that supports the culture you want to see and reinforcing it, or making a choice that doesn't support the culture you want to see and coaching them in making a better decision. Remember, when people come to that point of choice, how should I act in this situation? What should I do in this situation? They're heavily influenced by that great pool called the way we do things around here, which is the accumulation of every decision every person makes every day. If they make the right decision, a decision that supports the corporate culture you want to see, that's the time to pull them aside and reinforce what they've done. If they make a decision that doesn't support the culture you want to see, that's the time to pull them aside and coach them. Not berate them, help them develop the skills to make better decisions at that point of choice. The key difference there is that if you pull someone aside and say that's the wrong choice, you should have done this, you've given them a fish. If you pull them aside and coach them and talk to them about the decision they made, why they made it and what the consequences might be, and also critically, what alternative decision they might make and how that might play out, you're teaching them to fish. To wrap up, as a leader, if you want to influence corporate culture in a positive way, think about the point of choice. Don't look at what people do, look at the context in which they make the decision and influence that. Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to keep visiting our website for more videos, resources and articles just like this one.